met in his life. "No fear," he muttered. At the front gate he stopped and looked back at his bay window. "Now, curtains," he said. "I won't have curtains. Blinds at night, yes, if you like. But curtains, I never could see any use in curtains. Fallals, keep the light out. Dust traps." Rachel gazed at him. Despite his beard, he appeared to her as a big schoolboy blundering about in the world, a sort of leviathan puppy in earnest. She liked him on account of an occasional wistful expression in his eyes, and because she had been kind to him during his fearful visit to Bycars. She even admired him for his cruel honesty and force. At the same time he excited her compassion to an acute degree. As she gazed at him the tears were ready to start from her eyes. What she had seen and what she had heard of the new existence which he was organizing for himself made her feel sick with pity. But mingled with her pity was a sharp disdain. The idea of Julian talking about cleanliness, dust traps, and rationality gave her a desire to laugh and cry at once. All the stolid and yet wary conservatism of her character revolted against meals at odd hours, brown bread, apples, orange sucking, action of the skin, male cooking, camp beds, the frowsiness of casual charwomen, bare heads, and especially bare windows. If Rachel had been absolutely free to civilize Julian's life, she would have begun by measuring the bay window. She said firmly, "I must say I don't agree with you about curtains." His gestures of impatience were almost violent, but she would not flinch. "Don't ye?" "No." "Straight?" She nodded. He drew breath. "Well, I'll get some if it'll satisfy you." His surrender was intensely dramatic to her. It filled her with happiness, with a consciousness of immense power. She thought, "I can influence him. I alone can influence him. Unless I look after him, his existence will be dreadful, dreadful." You'd much better let me buy them for you," she smiled persuasively. "Have it your own way," he said gloomily. "Just come along up here." He led her up to the top of the street. "You'll see what I live up here for," he muttered as they approached the summit. The other half of the world lay suddenly at their feet as they capped the brow, but it was obscured by mist and cloud. The ragged downward road was lost in the middle distance and vaporous grey greens and earthy browns. "No go!" he exclaimed crossly. "Not clear enough. But on a fine day ye can see Axe and Axe Edge. Finest view in the Five Towns." The shrill cries of the footballers reached them. "What a pity!" she sympathized eagerly. "I'm sure it must be splendid." His situation seemed extraordinarily tragic to her. His short hair, ruffled by the keen wind, was just like a boy's hair, and somehow the sight of it touched her deeply. He put his hands far into his pockets and drummed one foot on the ground. "What brought ye up here?" he demanded, with his eyes on an invisible town of Axe. She opened her handbag. "I came to bring you this," she said, and offered him an envelope, which he took wonderingly. Then, when he had it in his hands, he said abruptly, angrily, "If it's that money, I won't take it." "Yes, you will." "Has Louis sent ye?" This was the first mention of Louis, though he was well aware of the accident. She shook her head. "Well, let him keep his half, and you can keep mine." "It's all there." "How all there?" "All that you left the other night." But he seemed to be furious as he faced her. Rachel went on, "The other part of the missing money's been found. Louis had it. So all this belongs to you. If someone hadn't told you, it wouldn't have been fair." She flushed slowly, trembling, but looking at him. "Well," Julian burst out with savage solemnity, "there's not many of your sort knocking about, by God there isn't." She walked quickly away from his passionate homage to her. "Here!" he shouted, fingering the envelope. But she kept on at a swift pace towards Hanbridge. About a quarter of a mile down the road, the Pigeon Flyers' dog-cart stood empty outside a public house. End of chapter 15.